Hi. Sleep is really important for our health and our survival. It affects how we look, feel, and perform. In Australia, between 34 and 45% of people suffer with inadequate sleep. What that means is that they're either not getting enough sleep or the sleep that they are getting is of really poor quality. Essentially, what we're saying is that a third of Australia is walking around sleep deprived. And whilst not only that affects our energy, it affects how we're performing in the workplace as well. Hi, I'm Mary-Leigh. I'm a clinical nutritionist, and today I'm going to be talking to you about sleep, energy, and productivity. We need on average 8 hours of sleep each day. Some people can do with a little less, some people need a little more. But it is essential that we are getting the right amount of quality sleep for hormone production, detoxification, repair and maintenance of our body, our cognitive processing, relaxation, and energy production. Many people don't realise that they have a sleep problem. And in fact, when I'm working with my clients, often the symptoms that they come in and actually present with often tell me that, along with a whole lot of other things, sleep is a very big part of what's not working right for them. So what are the signs that you may need some improvement in your sleep quality or quantity? You might have trouble initiating or maintaining sleep. So you may fall asleep okay, but you don't stay asleep. Or you could have problems just falling asleep. So that's a really common one. It's forms of insomnia. You could maybe wake up feeling unrefreshed, even if you've had a long sleep. Many people wake up too early in the morning, so they're kind of waking up at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning and they're not able to get back to sleep again, or they struggle to wake up. They just, they hit the alarm 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 times and they really just can't get up and going in the morning. Another sign that your sleep needs assistance, or that there are things going on with your sleep patterns, is where you've got really low energies and you have trouble actually getting through the day. So you may be waking up okay, but as the day wanes, your energy levels drop and you just don't feel like you've got enough to keep you going. And you may need a nap or maybe reach for a shot of coffee at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And if not coffee, sugar, and often the two go hand in hand. Another sign or symptom that can present for people who don't have enough sleep is chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia. So lots of pain, myalgic pain or muscle pain and joint pain can actually be associated with not having enough sleep. Mood changes. So we all know what it's like when you've got a young child that hasn't been having their naps and they get very irritable and grouchy. Well, the same happens with adults. So if you tend to have a short fuse, or if you are suffering with anxiety or depression or very low motivation, then part of that could be because you're not getting good quality sleep. One of the other things that we see in people is where they are having cognitive problems. So you're just not able to you feel like it's a bit foggy up in the brain area. You get forgetful, you're a bit fuzzy, or maybe even dizzy, an inability to focus, and generally we talk about brain fog. But it includes things like poor memory and reduced problem-solving capability, or reduced capability in terms of creativity. Other things that you may see as a sign or that is associated with not enough good quality sleep is hormonal symptoms. So it could be low libido, poor glucose regulation, problematic menstrual flows, unexplained weight gain, sometimes weight loss, but mostly unexplained weight gain, high stress levels, so your hormone levels are up, and low sex hormones, and that's for both men and women. And of course, the other one that is a really clear indicator is that you've got a partner who complains about you snoring. So that's just a few signs and symptoms associated with poor sleep. So what causes poor sleep? Well, sleep problems are multifactorial, which means there are a lot of different things that can contribute, to what's actually causing the problems. But here's some very common ones that we see. The first one is what we call voluntary bedroom delay. Essentially, it's where you choose to sit on the couch and watch Netflix just that little bit longer rather than actually taking yourself and putting yourself off to bed. And what you find is because of the way that our circadian rhythms work, if you actually stay up later than 10:30, you can often get a rush of another set of hormones that actually means that you get another wave of awakeness, and so you can then have trouble going to sleep. So staying up and watching too much TV or spending too much time on the internet or getting sucked into social media can definitely affect our sleep quality. Prescription medicines is another cause of sleep problems. High or chronic stress is something that will affect your sleep. And because of the hormones that are being surged through your body, everything is on high alert. And so a deep, restful sleep is not something you need if you think that you're in mortal danger. And really, that's what our stress hormones are set there to do. But we're not in mortal danger, and therefore that highly attuned state can keep us feeling, can actually prevent us from getting a good night's sleep. There are medical conditions associated with poor sleep. So anybody who suffers with reflux or GERD or GORD, as it's often called, if they have breathing difficulties or other types of medical conditions, can also affect our sleep. So often when people present, they actually present with sleep problems, and then we discover that the reason that they're not sleeping well is because of these other things. There are environmental factors that can affect our quality of sleep. Obviously noise, bright lights, or extreme temperatures. If you're a shift worker or if you live with a shift worker, that can definitely affect the quality, if not the quantity, of sleep that you're getting. If you have to travel for work and you change time zones, or you often have to sleep away from home in hotels or motels, then that can be disruptive to your sleep. Obviously, having babies can be very disruptive to our sleep. And whilst our bodies are set up to be able to manage that for short periods of time, if you've got a baby who's now 5 years old and still having sleep issues, you can bet your bottom dollar that the quality of sleep that you've had over the last 5 years has absolutely affected your health and well-being. And of course, there are foods and drinks and things that we consume that will affect our sleep. Of course, caffeine is the number one. High sugar intake, smoking, alcohol, any other type of stimulants, prescription drugs we talked about, but recreational drugs can also affect our sleep. And then the other one from an environmental factor is what we call EMFs, or electromagnetic fields. So that's the EMFs that you get from Wi-Fi or other transmitting devices. So there are ways that we can improve our sleep from the foods that we eat. So let me take you through some foods that encourage and support restorative sleep. Herbal teas is a great way to start. Herbal teas with ingredients like chamomile, passion flower, lavender, valerian, or withania have all been shown to be beneficial for restorative sleep. There are also some lovely tasting sleepy time teas that are already made up with mixes of those, and you can just get them at the supermarket or health food stores. The other thing is we'd recommend swapping out that glass of wine at the end of the day with a soothing herbal tea. It's going to help you sleep, and we'll talk about the alcohol in a moment, but alcohol, even though it may help you go to sleep, the quality of the sleep that you get is not good at all. So, herbal teas. Some of the foods that you can eat that will help to improve your sleep is kiwi fruit and cherries and oats and bananas. So there are things that you could do throughout the day in terms of including those into your diet that will actually help your sleep at night. And that's because they have lots of medicinal compounds in them that will help with sleep, because they'll raise your serotonin levels. And I've talked about serotonin in another video recently. But serotonin is the hormone that makes us feel awake. It actually helps to regulate our energy levels throughout the day. And then at night, it converts into melatonin, which helps us to sleep. Melatonin is our sleep hormone. So think about maybe having a smoothie that might have some oats and a little bit of banana and some kiwi fruit and some cherry in it. Adding that with a little bit of yogurt into the smoothie, and then mixing it up with the milk of your choice, or even with water, will be enough to just boost those serotonin and melatonin levels in your body. So some other foods that can help with that is grapes and walnuts. We talked about rolled oats. Grapes, especially the skins, are really helpful. Cranberries, mushrooms, sunflower, and lentils. So those foods will all help to boost both your serotonin and your melatonin levels. Tryptophan is the ingredient that comes from our proteins, or it's an amino acid, but it comes from proteins, and tryptophan is the base ingredient for serotonin and melatonin. So foods that are high in tryptophan are also very beneficial. So that includes milk, which is why a warm glass of milk and an oat cookie is actually an old wives' tale around helping you to sleep. But there's actually some science that backs that up. But you also get tryptophan from foods like turkey, chicken, oats, almonds, and yogurt. One of my favourite ingredients that I use for lots of as a medicinal food or a functional food with clients is something called Maca powder. It's a Peruvian, it's grown in the Peruvian Andes, and it's actually a root vegetable that gets ground down and made into a powder. And we can use that for a number of things, including reducing blood glucose levels, or modulating our blood glucose levels, assisting with our blood pressure, and also for males helping with the size of their prostate, to keep their prostate working well. Maca powder is fabulous for increasing memory, for balancing hormones, and for increasing libido and fertility. Mostly I tend to add it to smoothies, or you can put it into your oats and your porridge. But you want to start slowly. So it's actually quite a powerful functional food. So when you first start taking Maca powder, if you're going to introduce it into your diet, you might start with just a half a teaspoon, and then maybe a teaspoon, and then work your way up until you can probably be having up to 2 tablespoons across the day. But the other thing with Maca powder is it's not designed to be taken all the time, every day, throughout the month. What I would recommend to people is that you start slowly, work your way up, and you only ever have it for a couple of weeks at a time to help modulate and regulate your hormones, and also to assist with your sleep. So let's talk about foods and things that actually get in the way of having good quality sleep. The number one on my hit list, and you know I'm going to talk about it, is caffeine. So we actually have this chemical that builds up throughout the day in our body, and it's called adenosine. And adenosine in our brain, it promotes relaxation and sleepiness. And it's accumulated throughout the day from physical and mental activity. Now, caffeine actually competes with adenosine inside the brain, and what it does is it blocks adenosine from doing its job. And that's why when we take caffeine or have a coffee, it gives us this lift, especially towards the end of the day, because adenosine's been slowly winding us down, because that's what should be happening as the day goes on. And when I say that, I mean late in the afternoon, we should be winding down. And caffeine kind of goes, oh, I'm just going to muscle in on your spot and keep you from actually doing your job. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's doing that from the get-go in your body. So with the caffeine, or we'll talk about coffee, but caffeine in general, which includes hot cocoa and cacao has a lot of caffeine in it. The black tea, actually green tea has a lot of caffeine too, but it has other things in it called theanine, which helps to actually take the edge off the caffeine. But let's just talk about coffee in general. You may not realise it, but caffeine actually stays in your system for between 5 and 6 hours. So we talk about its half-life. It takes 5 to 6 hours for caffeine to get to half the effect that it's having in your body, which means if you have a cup of coffee at 5 o'clock in the evening, at 8 o'clock, it's still circulating through your body and it is still blocking those adenosine receptors so that you can't go to sleep. Now, definitely some people are more sensitive to the effect of caffeine than others, and there are people who think that they can have a shot of black coffee at the end of a meal before going to bed and that they have no problems falling asleep. But what the science has showed us that it is actually affecting your sleep whether you realize it or not, because the quality of sleep that you get is greatly reduced. And so what it does is it means that your body isn't able to go through and do all of the cleaning and the repair and the maintenance work that is supposed to be happening, because you've blocked a number of the important hormones that help to trigger those processes. So even if it doesn't stop you from going to sleep, I'd highly recommend that you're not having any coffee after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And if you do have sleep problems, then I'd look at maybe not having any coffee before 12, maybe only having one in the morning, reducing the amount of coffee that you have, and looking at taking some other type of hot drink throughout the rest of the day. And if your energy levels, if the reason that you're taking or having a coffee in the afternoon is because of your energy levels, then maybe you'd be better off to actually have a smoothie or an apple or some type of vitamin C that will actually give you a bit of a lift and some energy it'll give you the boost that you need, but it won't keep you awake later at night, and it's another opportunity to get some nutrients into you. So let's talk about sugar and sugary type foods. A diet that is high in sugar will shorten your sleep pattern. So studies show us that the more sugar that you have in your diet throughout the day, the poorer the quality of sleep that you get. And of course, sugar, once it's fermented in some way, shape or form, becomes alcohol. And so, like I said earlier on, alcohol may knock you out, but it has the same effect as caffeine and sugar in the quality of sleep that you have. So your quality of sleep is highly diminished if you're having alcohol, especially on a regular basis. But certainly, even on a night that maybe on a Friday night you might have a few drinks at the end of the week, you will find that the quality of the sleep that you have is not as good as it could be, and of course that over time is accumulative. And the key thing that it actually does is that it shortens your sleep cycles, and our sleep cycles should run on average around 90 minutes throughout the night. And if we're shortening them, then again, the repair, the maintenance, and the cleanup job that should be going in our body at night is not happening, and that's what affects both our energy and our cognitive performance or our productivity during the day. So there's some outliers as well. Those are the things that are really common in terms of caffeine, sugar, those types of things that can affect us and affect the quality of our sleep. But there's some outliers as well that you may not have heard about. So the first one is nightshades. Nightshades are a type of plant that grow things like peppers, tomatoes, potatoes, eggplants, goji berries, all of those. And nightshades can overstimulate the nervous system. And so eating them occasionally may not cause any distress, but for some people they accumulate in their system and then they start to build up. And with that, they can actually affect not only the quality of sleep, but they can also affect our pain. And so we may find that we actually are more sensitive to pain. You may have more headaches, or if you've got arthritis or any joint pain, you may find that those get worse. So actually reducing nightshades out of your diet for a period of time and eliminating them for a period of time, and then slowly reintroducing them and maybe not having too many at once, can be something that will help you in terms of improving your sleep and your energy. The other thing that's a bit of an outlier that you may not have heard about is around fermented foods. So any foods that are aged or fermented. So think of smoked meats, aged cheeses or aged beef, sauerkraut, kombucha, again, alcohol, so wine. These foods are what we call high in histamine. And histamine, you'll be familiar with histamine or antihistamines. Histamine is the thing that makes us sneeze. It's part of our innate immune system. But sometimes with some people, histamine can build up into our systems. And what that does is it acts as, it kind of aggravates a few things. In excess, it can aggravate our digestion, it can throw our hormones out, it can affect our neurotransmitters, and again, it can be highly stimulatory to the nervous system. And so in that overstimulated state, again, we actually don't get good sleep quality. What histamine does is it can also drive adrenaline in our body. So our flight and fight hormones are activated, and again, we said before, when we're in a state of stress, our body's on high alert. The last thing it needs is to be in a deep sleep because something bad might happen while we're asleep. And so even if you're not stressed, high levels of histamine in your body can actually be affecting your sleep quality. So maybe have a look if you have a lot of those types of foods. And can I just say that when you are a person who eats a lot of aged or fermented foods, you can actually get a bit of a kick and a bit of a buzz out of them. They can actually make us feel really good. So it can be really hard to try and give those up. So even while I'm talking about this, if you're listening to this going, no, I'm not giving those foods up, then chances are you've probably got too much in your system and you're just a little bit addicted to the buzz that it's giving you. So the last thing that I'll talk about in terms of food and sleep is having a heavy meal at night. We don't need to have a really big heavy meal at night just before we go to bed. A small snack is okay, but having your dinner earlier on in the evening and having a couple of hours where you're awake and still moving around will actually help your body to start digesting the food. And it means that it's not having to digest a big meal and start off the cleaning process at the same time. So no more heavy meals just before going to bed. So now I'm going to talk about lifestyle changes. We've talked about the food component, but there are also environmental and lifestyle things that we can do to improve our sleep. We want to obviously this is really around making sure that we have the energy to get through the day, and that we, the other thing about energy during the day is that the more we exert our energy during the day and the more active that we are, the better quality sleep we have. So it becomes cyclic, and it's really about choosing a place where you can, short circuit what's going on with you and kickstart a good sleep process. So there's lots of different places that you can start. Big one is exercise. So making sure that you're moving your body on a regular basis is going to hugely help your sleep quality. The other one is getting sunlight in the morning. So I talked about that also in the good mood, good mental health video that you'll be able to have a look at on the YouTube channel. And that is around serotonin, again, is stimulated by the morning light or the blue light that we have that comes out through the day. And then in the evening, it converts into melatonin. So what we want to do is go out and get some sunshine in the morning, go for a walk and get some exercise and boost those serotonin levels. Okay, another thing that you can look at doing is adding aromatherapy into your world. So there are certain aromas that can be really beneficial for helping you to sleep. Lavender and sandalwood are probably the ones that stand out the most, but cedarwood, Mary-Leigh and Roman chamomile can also be lovely. Now, if you go into a chemist or a health food shop, you'll probably be able to find some sleep formulas that are already made up for you, and that's really the best way to go about it. If you're new to aromatherapy, all you need to do is put it in a little diffuser, and the electronic diffusers are probably the safer way to go rather than burning candles in the bedroom. But the easiest thing is maybe have a hot bath before you go to bed, or a shower, and put your essential oils in the bath with you, and that will also help to infuse them, and they'll affect our olfactory system, send some lovely soothing messages to the brain, and help us to both fall asleep and stay asleep. Electronic devices. So I talked earlier on about EMFs in terms of transmitting waves, but if we're on a device late at night, or pretty much any time after 8 o'clock at night, the devices emit a blue light. And blue light is really a type of light, not necessarily the color of the light. And that blue light actually is very stimulating. It's the same type of light that we get from the sun in the morning that stimulates our serotonin. And so what that does is it blocks our melatonin from coming in, and it actually is very stimulatory to the brain, and that can prevent us from going to sleep and having really good quality sleep. So I recommend that you actually turn your devices off after 8 o'clock, and if not earlier, if you can, and actually give your eyes and your brain a little bit of a chance to calm down before going to sleep. So from an environmental perspective, another thing that you can find is that if you are too hot, the quality of your sleep, and you know that in the heat of summer when we're tossing and turning, that we're not actually having a really good sleep. So cool down your bedroom. Make sure that your room actually is between 16 and 19 degrees is actually the ideal temperature for us to sleep in. And I know that for some people, they'll be thinking, crikey, that's way too cold. So it's okay to have the room that cold, but make sure you've got enough blankets on you. But absolutely, cooling everything down is a great way to improve your sleep. Now, it's a really interesting thing that if we, because our core body temperature actually does cool down overnight, and it needs to do that, again, so that repair and maintenance can go on inside our body and all of the cleanup job that needs to happen at night. And so one of the things that can actually help, and I talked before with the aromatherapy about having a shower or a bath, and a hot bath or shower can be really good to actually cool down our core body temperature. Because what happens is once we have that hot shower, we get really, really warm, and our body works really hard then to actually cool our core, our organs down. And in the process of generating heat from the outside and cooling us from the inside, it actually helps us to have a much more relaxing and calm sleep at night. So there you go. Obviously, make sure your room is dark. You know, before we had electricity, the only light that we used in the evening was the light from a fire, which is that beautiful orange, soft light. And our bodies have adapted so that when there's blue light around, we're awake, and when that soft orange light starts to come through, it sends messages to our brain that it's time to relax and calm down. So make sure that your room's dark. But remember, there are other sort of little lights that can actually penetrate, and they can actually stimulate us and make us think that we're awake. So think about the flashing lights on a mobile phone. You know, turn it over or put it on Do Not Disturb. In fact, I always turn mine on to airplane mode so that it's not transmitting either, because EMFs. Any other type of electronic charging light can be enough to be flickering around and keeping you awake and affecting your sleep. Close your curtains if there's any. The bright moon coming in can actually be quite stimulating, and any lights outside of your bedroom window. And if you've got an alarm clock that has a bright light on it, then you might want to cover that up at night so that that's not transmitting and you're not seeing those lights. So those may seem like really small things, but they actually make a big difference to the quality of the sleep that you have. And of course, we talked a bit about the electronic devices, but the TV as well transmits that blue light. So not having a television in the bedroom it's just a no-no. It's not going to help if you have sleep problems. So the other thing that's really helpful is having some good sleep routines. So make sure that you're going to bed and waking up at the same time, and that even means on the weekend. And if you need to have a small nap to actually play catch up, then do that, but not past 3 o'clock in the afternoon and not more than half an hour. Switch off your electronic devices when you're going to bed. Do a bit of a brain dump is another thing that I would recommend. It can be really helpful, rather than having things churning in your brain, to write them all down and get them out. So journaling can often be really beneficial for people to assist with the quality of their sleep. Turn the lights down, enjoy a hot bath we talked about, make yourself a herbal tea, and give yourself some the purpose of the routine is it actually starts to send messages to our brain that it's time to wind down for the day. So you can't go from running around like a goose and being on the internet and taking phone calls and jumping around and going to the gym and then just have a quick shower and jump into bed and expect everything to just switch off. You actually need to work your way out of your day in the same way that you work your way into the day. And look, meditation and mindfulness apps are a great way to do that. So maybe look at downloading something like Smiling Mind or Headspace, the Calm app, or my favorite is Insight Timer, and use that as a guided meditation to help you with your sleep. Okay, so that's a lot of information that I've shared with you today about how to improve your sleep, your energy and your productivity levels by making sure that you're getting good quality and quantities of sleep. If there's any other assistance that you would require after trying these things, then I do welcome you to, or invite you to, get in contact with me, ask me any questions, and I would be more than happy to help. So again, I'm Mary-Leigh, I'm a clinical nutritionist, and this has been a talk about sleep, energy, and productivity. Have a good day.